Okay, general messages. Not sure where to start first. Like there were 4 different decks that I pulled the cards from. So let's start in the order of how I did it. This kind of like was the first one. So that kind of like really kind of like came to me like in a rush. Like really kind of like I felt really good. Both of them. Milky Way, given that we are going through the period of Libra transit. No guys, this is not reading for Libra. This is reading for all signs. We are simply going from the end of September till the end of October through the transit of Libra, meaning Libra people have their birthday, I believe, starting 20th to 20th. So Milky Way, as you know, the Earth is part of this kind of like whole sets of galaxies that are kind of like all swirling. And just like when you compare that like with hurricanes and with tornadoes, like kind of like eye of the storm, they are enormous, right? So this one over here that shows a little dot, this is our solar galaxy over here. So you can just imagine how a small dot Earth is, and then how much smaller, non-existent to our eye dot is basically makes us. So I really think this kind of like is telling us to shed our ego, to kind of like understand the process that we are part of one big thing. And especially in the West, we are living with individualism, which I, as an Aquarius, really love. But we are kind of like forgetting that pushing in one way is completely neglecting the other, right? Because look what is happening right after gaining this perspective, after understanding, well, you know what? Even if I hate you, if I harm you, actually I'm harming myself. It's like, you know what they say, you know, you cut your nose to spite your face. I think it might be actually a healing period. Keep in mind that Libra is all about bringing things in balance. It's kind of like really important, the transition we are going through. And then we are getting Waterfall as a follow-up card. Actually, 2 of them came out together. And so look at this cascading, beautiful kind of like falls coming out here. And I don't think there is any one of us coming in a sunny day on the edge of this, kind of like in saying, oh my gosh, I'm not being taken by this. I'm not feeling really relaxed. But I really feel that these 2 cards combined is basically sending us message that maybe we are coming to the edge of our comfort zone, and we are finding ourselves maybe fighting to resist moving past, you know, that, I don't know, perceived precipice. What is next? Where do I go forward? Maybe kind of like we went on like using our way so far on the ledge, and now we have to figure out who we are, how we can be, what we can become, and what we can do. So I think like coming to the spirit messages, spirit is asking us to step beyond that edge. You know, like that's a Fool card in tarot. The entire tarot is basically based on the Fool as the card. That's the God that is descending, as above so below. And here it's like Regis perspective. If you're struggling, then something is not effortless. So allow yourself to do so with ease rather than struggle, right? So I get it that at times like physical exertion is necessary, but when kind of like we are performing things with fluidity and grace, like even when something seems to be very kind of like daunting, then we actually really find that, you know, the movement is actually making us kind of like move effortlessly. It looks like that we are going to, because Libra is about communication. Don't forget that, yes, they are like lovey-dovey sign, but it is about communication. So in this like very kind of like tribal world that we are currently living in, I feel this is a great news, right? So remember, if from all this entire reading, from all the signs for your sign, you have to remember something. Remember that approach the present situation or relationship with awareness and grace. Don't try to make it effortless, because it's going to just like be more and more kind of like strain in all of that. Allow. So when you're going to conversation with somebody, just allow things to happen. No matter what they say, yeah, if they irritate you, just let this like flow, because guess what happens with the waterfall? It always kind of finds its way to the ocean, right? Nothing is really barrier. It's kind of like if you have something that is an obstacle, you just like flow around that. So you're going to find that ultimately you come to those calm waters. So it's kind of like really interesting, because this card is usually kind of like referring to solar plexus and our breath. So solar plexus is in that navel region. It's really talking about our confidence. It is like really talking in boundaries that we set with other people, right? So breathing is also very, very important, given that we have both air and water. And that's kind of like both suggesting to me that kind of like oxygen. We need to kind of like put things in perspective. Maybe like too much oxygen has been taken out of the room. Maybe we have like some situations where we kind of like feel all we are like talked out. And then I saw these two, which kind of like almost like reinforce this, because now we are dealing with heart chakra and with solar plexus chakra, right? Like gossip card is like really talking about kind of like really trying to find, probably like for maybe once, like it's telling me certainly that we have people who are like really not very savory, that kind of like could be in our surroundings, and we kind of like maybe need to kind of like deal with this, like, because there are some people who are definitely all about prejudice and all about misunderstanding, and we have to find what is inside of us that we are resisting. If people who are like this don't make you angry, then you have to ask yourself why. Because anger is an emotion that has been built inside of us for a reason. And in this society, we are being discouraged of being angry, because anger can, as we know, lead to really kind of like devastating actions. But anger really kind of like gives you that sort of like pointers. This is kind of like red flag that something is wrong. And this is kind of like, to me, clearly talking about that we have to find what basically we find in the others. Is that bothers us, that they're very unique and they're not like us, or they're doing something that is like so out there that is just like it's not supposed to be tolerated. So maybe it's the other way around, that other people are not supporting your vision, that maybe there is like some kind of like lack of appreciation. So there is like a complete need to kind of like refocus your life, because this card is called Facade. And this is really talking about reclaiming your life, because look at him, he's like walking on the clouds. He is like literally kind of like descending and kind of like understanding, hey, give me a hand, kind of like, let's kind of like do this together. This also kind of like talks to me about childhood pain. And I know we don't kind of like wake up and say, I have to today deal with the childhood pain. Like, this is not how it really works. But more or less the childhood pain kind of like results, kind of like manifests in everyday things, like how we approach relationships, how we deal with relationships, who are people around us, why are those people around us, etc., etc., etc. So sometimes we are making decisions out of that pain that we don't even notice, that basically has been brewing all these years, and we are simply just mirroring it on the person who is like nearby. Right? So that's kind of like an issue, which I think it's going to be, and maybe this is also part that we need to put in perspective, how much of all this thing that is going on in our life is something that we created, right? Like, so take responsibility. I really think it's really important, because it's kind of like interesting that we didn't get Justice card, but we did get Integration for the Libra passage, which, check it out. Like, what is not in balance here? Look at this. A swan and an eagle. Which one is more important bird? One is like a visionary, and one is like so beautiful and graceful, just like going back to that grace. There is like this lotus flower. There is like this Merkaba, right? Little Merkaba, which is kind of like a theory that we are actually, each one of us, in part of inside of one of these, and that's how we receive our healing, through basically our spinal cord, right? And also there is like this yin and yang over here. As you can see, they're like the opposites, but even each of them contains a little bit of the other, right? So this is basically telling me that with everyone we can find something to break the bread with, right? And I think we have to go in that direction, even if it's a minuscule, even if it's like literally simple as just have a meal, let's just not talk, but we enjoy both food, something basic. That's kind of like really about merging the opposites, sun and the moon. This card, traveling, is the card about basically, you know, path. As you can see, whatever this horseman is, this kind of card is really talking about enjoying the travel, not the destination. It is reversed though, so I'm really telling myself that maybe destination is important. Maybe it is important, like, I mean, who we want to become, in which direction we really want to go, who do we, like, you know, like if you're making a sculpture, if you're making a sculpture, I cannot talk, then like you're starting with some kind of like major shape, and then you're kind of like putting things out like eyes and nose, let's say if it's the head, right? So you kind of like know what your goal is. So that vision, like, hey, you know what, like maybe I kind of like started with focus too much on the eye, and now this eye is too big, this one is too small. Why not to kind of like try to keep that big perspective and just like keep going with kind of like these instincts? It almost looks like that we are all going to make a conscious choice to be better. And then this card showed up and poised, and this is like, whoa, look at this, so lovely. In fact, in the traditional card rendition of this card integration, it's called Temperance. And it's like talking about this basically merging of the opposites, merging of finding in the middle of patience, right? This kind of like really reminds me also, like kind of like there is this angel, kind of like, which is kind of like here mixing a silver and gold, right? I really think this is like talking about being ready and bringing something to light and being at your best and kind of like confidence, and that's happening only when we kind of like shed kind of like things that are not good in us, when we realize, this person is doing this, I don't like this in this person, but do I do this? Oh yeah, I have to kind of like check that in me, sort of a thing. So be ready for anything right now in this period. It's kind of like going to be really interesting because you will be very confident and people will be responding to the confidence, and it's kind of like when you're in the zone you tend to have less friction, right? So like everything becomes like more kind of allowing and more gracious, and kind of like, let's say rich people can afford to give a better tip, so that kind of like feeling is going to permeate this entire month. So after this general part, let's start with the individual signs. Safi, in a Gemini reading. Hello, Safi. Come on. Hello, you pretty Canuck girl. So pretty. I am so pretty. So pretty. Yeah, I am. Yes, little Canadian cat. You are. You're gorgeous. Where's the little Canuck? Your little Canuck. Yes, you are. Okay, so let's do this for Gemini. Hi Gemini, and of course the Mercury sign and the entire Google, YouTube is nuts. The uploads are not working. I'm thinking like there is no Mercury retrograde. Oh wait, I'm dealing with Geminis. They're kind of like doing something, because look at you guys, you have this kind of like godly energy. It's not the moon in your basically back, it's the sun, it's the glow. It's kind of like really kind of like lovely kind of like thing. So this card is like really talking about the journey. you looks like you have the house, you have the clover, the tree. You're like paying attention to smaller things in life, almost like you're like refocusing. Something like a nice cup of coffee and relaxing, a chat with a friend is kind of like really relaxing. Let your friends be there for you, with you. Don't hesitate. Like, this also is the card of friendships. This is also kind of like something that really talks about friends, but also it looks like maybe you're going to need solitude and you will need kind of like time for reflection over here. Kind of like, I really think also that you'll be paying attention to your health. This card is really interesting. Three of Cups, actually, like each card also has its own herb, its own kind of like number. It's actually many more symbols kind of like buried. And I don't know how much you know, I live in Ontario, in Toronto, Ontario, and Ontario has this like beautiful flower, Trillium, which is kind of like our flower, but it's also the same flower was something that I had back home in Croatia. So Trillium, however, is diuretic, and it's kind of like also astringent, antiseptic, and Trillium root is used for feminine disorders, which is kind of like associated with monthly cycles, and also is used for excessive or insufficient bleeding. So Trillium is a really balancing herb, and it's kind of like interesting, and the reason I'm mentioning this is like the card from the previous reading for Taurus was balance. And like when I was like doing these cards, these chakra cards where you have the enlightenment, I kind of like really seen the balance card, and I said, oh, no, this is from the previous reading. But now seeing like, right, let your friends help you, and kind of like moving on, getting unhooked from somewhere. You put an anchor down, but it kind of like feel like stormy, and no more kind of like stuff that you kind of like really want. Because like Three of Cups kind of like reversed can actually talk about boredom, and let me see which sign can experience boredom. Da, na, 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 na. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? So if you're bored, guys, don't go kind of like to like, I mean, drugs and like eating and negative habits, like, because like this is really telling me that something kind of like is really needing to kind of like fall in place in order, but all while you're not making grand plans. You know, like Lennon said, life is what happens when you were making other plans. So let's see what we have. Let me just zoom this out so now you can see a bigger picture. So look at that, how easy that was with a few clicks. The Magician, this is you again. The Magician, but it is reversed. This guy is a trickster. Let me show you my prop, right? The Magician is somebody who's going to say, I can do anything. I'm so nice, I can create anything. But when the Magician reverses, it's like, yes. You're using kind of like tools for the really wrong things. This is like, let's say, the rock star who is not into that because the music is awesome, but hey, I can get laid finally, kind of a thing, right? So it's kind of like that kind of energy. It's very powerful card because it's kind of like reaching the goal, because this is about goals, but this is more about travel. This is more about journey. So I really want to see what the heck is going on, because there is like some kind of like underlying negativity or some kind of like approach that is not really beneficial. Yeah. And the Tower to boot. I don't know if you're dealing with another Gemini, with maybe another Scorpio, another Aries. It kind of like, I really don't feel now that this is your energy, but I feel that energy is kind of like coming into your kind of like orbit, that somebody is like so demanding, and that you feel like they're kind of like ripping you apart. You feel like that they have this kind of like negative attitude, they're like overselling, under delivering, and kind of like, yeah, dude, you're not on the list, you know? I used to have a phase where I really removed lots of people from my life, and I would literally tell them, you're not on my list anymore. When I need you, like, you're always busy. So hey, you know, I'm okay on my own. because like it really tells me that there's like some turbulence, and it's also Tower reversed. So something that you're not necessarily able to pinpoint what the hell is going on. It's kind of like the energy that is still brewing, but it's kind of very unhealthy and very, very destructive. But you have like this Knave of Chalices. That's kind of like the sweetie pie. Somebody is like still kind of like peacefully offering love, but this is like to me a very kind of like young energy. So it would be like somebody kind of like winking at you in a bar. Well, you're not really literally kind of, oh my gosh, I'm going to marry this guy. It's just like it's that first kind of like spark. And let's see what happens with the spark. And by the way, that intro music is actually named Spark, and I hope you really liked it. So this is really talking about kind of like a shift, emotional shift, kind of like with these energy, the water, the fire and air, kind of was going in all directions and getting confused and getting lost, and maybe even kind of feeling that kind of like it was unhealthy. Wow, that is like something from the past. 8 of Cups, but it was reversed. Maybe somebody who left wanted to come back, and maybe you did allow them to open the door, and hello, the same story all over again. Like, you know, whenever you think, well, I already like taught you a lesson and you were supposed to learn this, but hey, they came back and they repeated the same story. So guess who is guilty right now? Not them. That's who they are. You keep getting them in, you'll keep getting these results. That's also what Magician says. What you put in, you get out. You put bad things in, you're not going to get a good product out. So it's kind of like what's going on, because it looks like you live for love. There's like really nice kind of like flavor over here, kind of innocence, but I'm not so sure how good this is. And now we have the Emperor. It's reversed, and again it's about control, it's about stability, it's about, you know, emotional and intellectual maturity. It's like somebody understanding, like, you know, there is like a big story about having an IQ that is really high, which is great. High IQ can really help you perform in school and on tests, but it's not going to help you in life unless you also have a very high emotional IQ. Emotional IQ basically means that you understand and you can read people's emotions. So if somebody is crying and it's obviously in distress, you will actually act accordingly, right? Not many people have very high emotional IQ, just like like other normal IQ. So this kind of like is really telling me that somebody is possibly very immature in a situation, and that kind of like energy is coming here. But that immature person is absolutely unaware of that. They really think they're like awesome and cool, and you know, usually teenagers have that kind of energy, right? They just like learned to write 5 years ago, but they do know what's wrong with the world. Mind you, I am kind of like changing my entire opinion about kids, because the more I'm studying, the more I'm scratching my head and thinking, wait a minute, maybe we didn't get this right. Maybe it's the kids who have it right. Okay, teenager excluded. Well, because kids come here and they have all these ideas and fantasies and imaginary friends. Well, maybe they're like better in touch with all the spirit world that we now spend years later on in life to kind of like reconnect. And there we go. We are talking about emotional IQ. So here we have the Emperor and the Empress. So, guys, now this is becoming serious. And the Magician, they're all reversed. There was like a pairing that you had with someone. Could be another Gemini, could be Sagittarius, could be Taurus, could be Libra, could be Aries. This is clearly telling me like these energies are coming the strongest ones, so possibly this is really valid for them. It could be Scorpio as well. It's really telling me that kind of like it was really important, that almost like it felt, well, this is it. I'm kind of like comfortable with this kind of like pairing. It's something really nice about it. Like something really went off, that he didn't feel masculine enough, she didn't feel feminine enough. So sort of like You know, like the puzzles, you're like putting the puzzles, you're forming this big picture, but if you put in the wrong spot, it just like shoe doesn't fit. And that's kind of like was one of those cases. And that's, I think, what needs to be realized. That's basically all it was. You can try 1,000,001 time, but in this particular case, this is it. This is as simple as that. Shoe doesn't fit, and this filled. Maybe the partner is filled. Sorry, it just like came through. It's Freudian slip. Emotions. There we have the karma card. This is the first reading with this card. It's reversed. Maybe you're going to feel that, you know, things are not working out well for you. It's kind of like really emotional shift. But this is like what needs to happen. This is also a card of enlightenment. This is usually the card that actually belongs to Sagittarius. At reverse, it can literally belong to you. But this is really talking about our perpetual chase for happiness. We always want to create things that are making us happy. Let's jump higher and nicer and better television, etc., etc. How about stopping this? And how about spending like this kind of like month in meditation, in kind of like, as I'm saying, connecting with these small things can be very, very spiritual. Because look at this is 1 and this is 10. It's the full cycle, but it's both negative. So this is really telling me that the cycle of negativity is just about to kind of like start going up, because hey, when you're on the bottom, the only way to go is up. And that's kind of like maybe why you have let your friends help you. Maybe it's definitely a suggestion to go in the direction of this healing of, you know, friends are such healthy energy. And because it's Aquarian energy, which is your sister sign, it's actually really beneficial for you. Friends are good for everybody. It's kind of like one of those, you know, good things, chicken soup for the soul. But for you, actually even more so. So find a few people you really trust and kind of like really spend time with them, because you really probably buried something inside that is bothering you that you're maybe not sharing. And that could be now festering. That's what I'm afraid of, because when the tree kind of card shows up, it always talks about health. This is more or less a health card. It is, you see the sunflowers, they're growing and they're always like basically chasing the sun. So it's kind of like having that center, having that goal where you're going. And also it feels, giving the card of enlightenment, that your mental health has been affected. But again, I repeat, when you're bottom, like, it's the only way to go up. You just, in order to go up, you actually do have to figure out what's wrong. And that's the problem when you have the Tower reversed, because hey, if I think that Earth is round, and if I think that I can fly to like into space, or I can't afford it, like, you know, all these limitations which is what we put on ourselves for a reason, right? But what if I'm wrong? What if this is all in my head? What if we live in some kind of, you know, matrix? What if this is all just like holodeck? What then? Then I would just realize, I was like limiting myself. All I need to do is to close my eyes to open my world. So this is kind of like my advice I'm giving you this month. You need to close your eyes to realize that there is like so much that can be kind of like given. Voila! That's on the outside. That's kind of like karma accomplished. But why is this in the environment? I guess you can expect the unexpected this month. I'm going to start, like, considering this one of my karma cards, making this a 5th one. Wait a minute, Sophie's all tangled up in her little kind of like bandana. Can we remove this, baby? Do they want to? There we go. We removed a little Karmic bandana. So yeah, she just like feels that she's naturally beautiful. I think, guys, that you can expect the unexpected. I really feel that you'll be encountering a whole bunch of different things, and it's all going to be done with basically your benefit in mind. So this is this card. You see this like big kind of like infinity sign, and it's not only there, but it's also here, and it's also here. And what is Kitty dreaming? Hey, I want a comfy cushion and a bowl of milk, right? Now look at this. One eye is blue, and I'm a steady hand, and one eye is yellow, just like a Safi in Matrix. So what do you want? I just want exactly the same thing, but I want to kind of like make it interesting. So these are very, very two strong cards with kind of like having this elements, the fixed elements around. So there is like a need for you to kind of like rearrange, restructure your life. Something that you're not seeing will be shown to you through the other people. So you will be literally experiencing different attitudes this month. So try to ask yourself, what is this telling me? Well, maybe you're not going to remember right on the spot, but like when you kind of like think about it later, I say, wait a minute, I remember watching this cat tarot. What the heck was the message today? That's kind of like the whole thing that is kind of like happening here, because something was really important and you need to kind of like reconnect your energies. And what I see here is disconnect between masculine and feminine. And it's kind of like really weird because like both of them are not just like vibrating, they're just like vibrating in different directions instead of like vibrating to kind of like move closer together, which ultimately then make everything work. So very simple exercise to kind of like regulate your vibration is to close your closets, clean your closets, organize your fridge, clean your fridge. Dust is putting the energy down big times. Get rid of stuff that you didn't kind of like wear for 2 years. Give it to somebody who can use it. And you know, like kind of like water, running water, changing the water for the plants, or just having a bowl of water on the table and changing it every day. It's always going to start circulating certain things. It's literally more to that, but these are like really quickly go to, and you will see how immediately your head is going to be cleaner and you're going to be able to think. And you're an air sign, you have heads in the clouds all the time, you need to think. And when you have the tree and it's kind of like, you know, the card like Four of Cups is like really, this is taken from that card. It's like the guy sitting here all kind of like with the arms kind of crossed, is like, well, I'm not taking anything kind of a thing. But like it's so nice to sit under a tree like this. So this is really telling me oxygen. And also you have clever, and it's kind of like reversed, so it's telling me more or less clever rather than clover. But sure, it does have some kind of like element of, you know, serendipity that can be happening. So let's see the hopes and fears. 7 of Wands. Actually, I like this card, and I know it's kind of like shows fears, Kitty, like mine, this is mine, I reached this kind of like goal over here, look at that fire over here. So this kitty is really right now realizing, actually maybe I am kind of like out, kind of like numbered, that's clear, but there is like something in my position, there is like something about that everybody wants. So this is clearly defending your turf, defending like your decision, defending like this kind of like newfound kind of like a thing, and insisting on it. Definitely, look, no, I said no, no cookies. No, I said I'm not going to do this. We are not going to repeat this. It is a time to jump out of this cycle and go into the new one. Very important to remember. So where is this heading? And there is like Queen of Cups. It's kind of like severing ties. When Queen of Cups, Queen of Swords. When Queen of Swords shows up, and this is such a lovely card because she has such a bad rep, and I should probably be a Queen of Swords, and I get to be this way when I kind of like encounter stupidity, then big times, just like you will not like me. And look at this, if you can. She has her sword laid down and whole bunch of butterflies, right? So it's kind of like tolerance. Obviously there's like not somebody who is fierce, but it's somebody who will kind of like jump to actions. And look at this, the little kind of like baby owl or unicorn over here. When this reverses, like she's really minimizing, she's like severing ties, because hey, my dear dress, I didn't wear you for 2 years, I love you, but you're not in anymore, and obviously there was a reason I didn't wear you for 2 years. So it is a time to have this space, because the glass that is full, it cannot get more in. So the only way you can do is to circulate in something that is already there. You need to open and expand place and space in order to kind of like let new energy in. So let's clarify a few things over here, shall we? Really lots of lovely cards. I mean, look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4 major, 5 major arcanas. And 2, 4, 5, and these are all very important ones. It's kind of like really interesting that you're getting this kind of like, let's start with this Wheel of Fortune, that you're getting that right in your kind of like emotional processes. I don't know, like I have a feeling that maybe you also have dealt with somebody who, well, betrayal is such a big word, but sort of like who let you down, who did let you down, who maybe was like somebody even coming to your home, and somebody who felt that your home is sort of like a revolving door, and they can come in and then they can come out. And I think you kind of like just got fed up with this. They're super sweet when they're knocking, but then everything that follows has issues. So let's see this like Wheel of Fortune. Why is this Wheel of Fortune for my sexy Geminis? I hope you like my intro. Did you notice that I put Marilyn Monroe? She's like that infamous Gemini. Let's see. Wheel of Fortune. And there you go. The Torah, doctor, thief, and scholar. And I swear to you that I had the same combination. I don't know who it was. And when I'm putting the cards back, I always, I don't know if you ever watch me kind of like doing this, I actually separate them just to make sure that they don't come. So this is beyond a coincidence. So this really talks about the central card, really, more or less. The thief is, as it says, not somebody who really kind of like want to invite in your home. It's talking about the behavior that is not something that can be tolerated, right? It's something that is unsightly, it's bad thoughts, it's somebody robbing us, you know, of our confidence, even possession. Somebody who maybe just like see the money outside on our table and they put it in their pocket, right? It's somebody who is making us feel very insecure, and I can see that. So I can see this immaturity, and maybe you're like saying to yourself, ever since I have been with this person, my life took turn for worse, kind of a thing. Somebody betraying our trust and living a parallel life. So I see that some of you will be probably looking for getting counseling, or even kind of like doing some kind of like research. What can I do to help myself? This is really totally cool, and it is in kind of like sync with this enlightenment card over here. Almost like, look at this, especially what I think is very significant in this card is like this shadow, somebody kind of like sneaky and trying to kind of like do things because that's kind of like suited for them. It's kind of like a safe, and somebody's holding secrets. But then in the next scene, he's opening the book, and book kind of like contains secrets. That's why we read book, because we want to know what is in. So he has this book wide open, and he seems to be somebody of a status, and I really think this is you. I really think that you're kind of like sick and fed up with someone, and maybe you were seeking help, or you feel like almost like you really need help, and there you have, let your friends help you, and I hope, you know, you can count me as your friend. And then scholar is, wait a minute, I'm learning this. This is kind of like that karmic thing. So this all happened for a reason. There was like something that I really needed to comprehend from this point on. So that's that kind of like Tower reverse moment. So it's not shocking. So when things are not shocking or sudden, they don't kind of like really get our attention as much. But nonetheless, they could be actually more dangerous because, you know, they're like actually starting to integrate to basically to that fabric of who we are. So let's check these two bedfellows over here. What's up with that? Okay, give me this for Gemini. And hopefully by this point that I am done and ready to edit and process this video, that YouTube is going to get their act together. Yeah, look at that. The Death. It's again a Scorpionic card. Are some of you dealing with Scorpios, Geminis? That is like really talking about something had to come to an end. And it can talk about both things, some kind of negative habits, negative attitudes. It's kind of like time to shed them. Oh la la, look at that. And it's maybe time to let go of someone and actually kind of like come back to that fun. And again, we have the friends and friends and friends. You guys, you know, you need to wrap yourself with a friend blankie. It's kind of like something that's going to give you warmth and comfort and understanding. You really need to download. It's like too much stuff on that hard drive. You need to download it and maybe even erase it. Cut out the stuff you don't need. Just delete. Joyfulness. It's time for you guys. But this also could mean that somebody else is also coming. Like one thing finishes, another door opens. One door closes, another one opens. And that can be like really, really happy. But given that this is coming as a clarification for these two cards, it's just telling you beware what you wish for. You need to figure this one out in order not to repeat the cycle, not to have this kind of like same old, same old. You need to figure out what was the lesson, right? So what else I want to know? Well, let's see with these friends, because we see the friends everywhere. So let's go with this like Three of Cups. What is this additional message here from my Geminis? Three of Cups. Let's take two more from the top. So, wow, isn't this the, like, I mean, our best friend? Like, I'm telling you, it's just like, the signs are there, I guess. You just cannot miss it. And then again we have cheerfulness, but it was reversed and it was soldier. So this is really talking about loyalty and disloyalty. I really think here that could have been a three-party situation for some of you. And again, this is talking very similarly, somebody's being guarded. Look at this repetition. They're like really simple messages that are happening over here, but it looks like that you're really getting it. Maybe somebody is gaslighting you. Maybe you're being told, no, I'm not with her or not with him. No, I'm just like with you. But you know better. You are getting this, like you're feeling this instinct. This is the confidence that is kicking through it. You kind of like have to trust your gut on this one, because this cheerfulness, when it kind of like reverses, especially the soldiers, right? The soldiers are all on guard. They're keeping different secrets, right? And this kind of like cheerfulness, like somebody having too much fun for their good. But are you present when they're having fun? And if not, why not? Because that's kind of like talking about being denied, right? Or something interrupted, like even like looks like because of these strong cards that you have, maybe even wedding was interrupted over here. Like it almost like came to this like final stages. Even I see that there's somebody kind of like being left at the altar over here, to be really honest. And broken engagements. So somebody feeling like, whoa, I don't know if I can ever trust again, right? So guess, a difficult situation that it's kind of like weird that I'm seeing almost like a similar thing, but that's because you were trusting. Like, you need to take this wool off your eyes because some of you are still having it. I have a feeling, because this keeps coming as friends, that maybe your friends were telling you something and you didn't want to listen. And you were continuing, and we all have been there. We kind of like want to have our 5 minutes of love. But friends were really doing that to protect you. And now you need to go into understanding of yourself. So let's see these two, the Emperor and the Empress. Like that need to kind of like restabilize yourself intellectually, emotionally, to understand your place in the sun, to understand kind of like that if you need somebody, you need to be, and that's hard for us air signs, to be vulnerable. So what is this here for Gemini? Let's grab these three fellows. Huh. Look, priest, look, friend, and sorrow. Well, the priest here really talks about letting something go, right? It, as I said, it could have been broken engagement or something just like happening prior to the wedding, but it really can literally talk as a divorce, right? And like somebody really consoling you or having a friend in kind of like your sorrow. It's clearly friends are there for you to be able to be understood. You really are an air sign. It's really hard to understand an air sign. So we all need a soft place to fall. It's really nice to have a friend who hugs you and who kind of like say it's okay, you can just cry, this is cool. But as an air sign, you need really more. You kind of like get all this energy, and that energy gets pent up energy. That's why the tower is there. And it's just like, did you ever kind of like try to put the clothes on that kind of like has all this like static electricity? That's kind of like what happens with air signs. It's kind of like get really edgy. And that's why we have a bad rap, because whoa, when this kind of like gets pent up and it comes out, it's like bleh, just like kind of like real big emotional vomit. So you need to like discharge a whole bunch of stuff, and for that you need somebody with tremendously strong energy. You need strong energy. You need to clear your energy as well. But you really need another air sign right now. You need a friend. You really need to go to another Gemini, a Libra, or Aquarius. That's going to be your best go-to. But also to the fixed signs, which is also another Aquarius, or Leo, or Taurus, or Scorpio. These are going to be really beneficial for you, because they can understand, you know, like the craving, the need, that you actually really want to go in this direction. And lastly, let's check this fellow over here. 7 of, what are you insisting upon? Look at this house, full of love and full of hope. You are getting it. Congratulations, Gemini. You have graduated. You get it. Like, this is bad, this is good. Good for you. You're getting the house also repeated, right? Hope is Aquarius. Kind of like love is Gemini. Look at that. What are the chances over here? This is really talking about insist. Insist of what you know that intricately you need. It's really important. One more card to seal this reading, guys. Just I know this is general reading. It might resonate for some of you, might not. And just check out your ascendant and check your moon sign. And of course, I mean, this might not be you at all, so check me out for your private reading. So the card that you got is Wandering Circus. So I know you can handle it. So this is what it says. You're capable and competent. Yay! Independence is key now as you step into your journey today. Others may not have the vision or resources that you need. Recognize that all the wisdom you have acquired along the way makes you particularly competent, capable of moving forward with assurance. Self-reliance is important. Another aspect to consider is creating and maintaining clear boundaries between you and another. Be discerning about your partnerships at this time. When you know who you are, that's the key. When you know who you are and have a healthy sense of where you end and others begin, you're able to enter into the best kind of relationships and will attract people who mirror back your wholeness. Interdependent relationships are always mutually supportive, stimulating, and transformative. You can achieve anything at this time. You guys really, really got it. So allow other people to be there for you. You're learning to be vulnerable, and they're actually feeling they're connecting with you. But make sure that you discharge that energy that really, really feels really pent up. And I would love to hear your comments. This is like really lots. What's up, Matrix? You want to say hi to Geminis? Come on. There's Matrix pushing his paw. Come on, baby. Come on. Say hi to everybody. Come on. Say hi. Look at this. You got both pussycats. You got both pussycats showing up, right? That's a treat. So see, that's why it is. You need to really focus where you want and what you're heading, and things will work out. And just look for distraction, that sometimes the black kitty is the one that brings luck. Right, Matrix? Say hi. Say hi. Say hi. Say hi. Say hi. Thank you guys so much. And please remember that I have live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you kind of like can come and just get your chance to win a free reading with me. And in the meantime, you can also get your daily dose of tarot fix via my Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much, guys, for being here with me, for me, and thank you for being who you are. And you guys are doing amazing work this month, so good luck.